Okay guys, let's talk straight. Today I'm here briefly to talk you about the Fujifilm XM5 again because I already made a video speaking about this camera and what I would like to see in it, the 5 advantages, the disadvantages and so on. Today I'm about to give you a very brief list of pros and maybe one con that maybe could bother you if this camera will be released. So let's start. The first advantage that I see in the XM5, honestly, is okay. So the first advantage that I clearly see on the XM5 by Fujifilm, it's the compactness. Okay, a compact small camera without the viewfinder. You can focus on the LCD screen and you can see what's happening, and then you can also focus on the composition and less on specifications. This leads to the other points in this video. Actually, I think that the XM5 should not chase the 40 megapixel dream by Fujifilm, because actually people are talking again and again about this sensor associated to the XT5, XH2, XH2S and XT50 finally, but honestly that would not be necessary. I would prefer to have the 24 or even 26.3 megapixel sensor, something found for example on the XH2S. Why? Because of the low light capabilities, because of the fast readout of the sensor, less rolling shutter, and maybe because you don't need 8K. For example, in the XT5 and XT50 you have the 40 megapixel sensor, but you don't have the 8K. And actually I don't see how can I say it? I don't see actually a good usage about this kind of sensor. And also I don't tend to crop so much. I'm a pixel peeper, okay? I admit it, sometimes I like to pixel peep, but not in this case. I would not like to take the Fujifilm XM5 to make these kind of shots. So actually now I'm filming on the ZV-1F by Sony. This is a 1-inch sensor, a small compact camera, point and shoot. Actually this has only the fixed lens in a 20 millimeters equivalent full frame. So honestly that's not enough for me. Now I would like to change lenses, and this leads to the XM5, which would be capable of using new lenses on the go. So you can you can change lenses, learning what focal length you like the most. For example, firstly I thought that I would be crazy about the 50 millimeter, but then I realized that probably I would need something wider. I speak in full frame equivalence, something like the 35. But then again I would miss the shallow depth of field, and so I would use, for example, the 85 millimeter in a full frame equivalent. That's because I would focus more on the subject and less on the background, and because of the background blur, but also in terms of the compression of the image, okay, of the frame. So the XM5 would help you to learn what focal length you like the most, and for most importantly, you would learn how to expose correctly an image. For example, this is not, I think, a correct exposed image. No, I understand, but at the moment I prefer to be in this way. It's not necessary, in my opinion, to be always perfect. I prefer to have a good audio because you should focus less on me and my face and more on the speech, so more on what I'm talking about. So Again, why I would need an XM5? I could buy XS10, I could buy XT30 Mark II, I could buy X100F, I could buy XC2S, I could buy the XM1. So I would have all these desires, everything in terms of compact cameras. I mean, small portable cameras which you can bring with you everywhere in your bag or in your pocket even. Why would you need an XM5? The reason is simple: the budget, the price. That's the real reason, which would allow average people, to use these kind of cameras and to have access to the YouTube film simulations, which are the nostalgic neck and the real ace. Actually, you can tell me, oh, I can have access to them in the XT50 or in the XS20, which don't cost as much as the XT5 or XH2 or XH2S. But again, that's a big amount of price for this camera, which would not be your primary camera, because you don't buy, I think, the XM5, you wouldn't buy it as your primary A camera. Okay, I use the ZV-1F as that kind of camera, but that's why, because I sold the ZV-E10 because I didn't have the money to buy new lenses, and I wanted something wider because I need to make talking heads like this, or a wide, I need a wider view, because I use this camera most importantly in the low light scenarios or in internals and less in external situations. So I didn't need IBIS, I didn't need an extreme low light or autofocus capable, because the tasks which I require from this camera are simple, and I enjoy it in its simplicity. So what I would need from XM5 in short are these things. Firstly, and now I'm speaking to Fujifilm, if you are developing this kind of camera for real, if you're planning to release it in the autumn or late autumn 2024, I kindly beg you to listen before. I know that I'm not an expert, but as a consumer with an opinion who studied the Fuji system after the Sony system, and who even bought the Sony ZV-1F, which has worse specs if compared to the Sony ZV-E10, actually I can assure you how much I would like to buy or to try even, and to use, most importantly to use the XM5, because you can take the XT50, you can take the XS20, but what if you had a more compact camera version of them, without some specifications, without some bells and whistles? In other terms, what would you get rid of from the other cameras? How would you shape? How would you build the specifications? What would you leave into the XM5? Actually, I would do what Mark Bennett did to the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II with the Sony ZV-E10 comparison before its release. I think six months before it was released. Actually, I think in December or January 2024, December 2023 maybe. I'm a big fan of him. Okay, close brackets. So, why? Because the XM5 actually would provide you the possibility the chance to bring this camera everywhere, in your pocket or in somewhere else, because you need to use a camera to explore it, to learn it. And I'm not talking here to those who already have, for example, the XS10 or the XT30 Mark II, but I'm talking to two categories, very distant categories of people. The first one, indeed, is the one who which comprehends, which includes those who have the possibility to buy 4 or 3 or even 2 cameras to use. For example, the X-T5 is their first camera and the XM5 would be their second camera, not the X-T50 because it's too much close to the X-T5 in terms of specifications, and it doesn't justify that higher price, even if it's getting a little low towards the low end, low budget area. No, not yet. That's why we need the XM5. So, what can I tell you? I can tell you that the XM5 would be priced, for example, 800 euros or 900 if you want, but with the kit lens 15 to 45 or 18 to 55, but I think 15 to 45 would be better. Then you would consider this camera with a small 5-axis image stabilization IBIS, such as the one you find in the XS10, but with the aesthetics of the XM1 and its compactness. Then you would need a flip out screen like you have on the XS10. So actually you are kind of reproposing something like the XS10, but in a less premium body, in a less acceptable shape for those who like the XS10 shape. I honestly, in my dream world, I would have the XS10 and the X-T30 Mark II and the XM5. So I would have those three cameras, not the XE4. I would like to have the XM5. So what I would like to have, the IBIS, because it would be a vlogging camera. You have to move like this. Then you would like to have, for example, an autofocus, which would not require AI. If Sony didn't, you always, Fujifilm, need to look at the competitors and understand their choices. If Sony, I don't want to say if you want to survive, but if you want to establish yourself into a certain kind of target, you want to present this camera as a vlogging camera, then take at your advantage the experience of the ZV-E10, the XS10, the Z30, the R10 and R50 and R100, ZV-1, ZV-1F, or the Fujifilm XA7. So you need to understand what you want actually by these cameras. So let me conclude this video by telling you why I would buy the XM5. So I would like, if I had, the XS10 and the X-T30 Mark II, why would I need the XM5? What would lead me towards that kind of camera? Firstly, the smaller size of the camera, the absence of the viewfinder, the absence of a more advanced system of stabilization. I would be happy with the 5-axis IBIS. Then I would not need the fastest autofocus. I would not need AI capabilities. I would not even consider, the other things like the how can I tell you? I would not consider as a mistake if that camera didn't have the headphone port. You can always continue using the USB-C, port to use it as a headphones. Then for the headphones, then you can give the mic input 2.5. But I think it would be better to keep it 3.5 as a standard for the mic inputs. For example, now I have on my ZV-1F the small rig for Vala S20, without using the lavalier mic, but I am using the shotgun placed here on the camera. That would be an amazing possibility on the XM5. Then what else would you like to include? Maybe the flash, maybe no, I don't know. If you want this camera to be more video oriented, as the Sony ZV-E10 was, then the flash could be an option. If you could be, how can we say it in English? Facoltativo, we say in Italian. In English, you can say it would be a choice. So you can decide to include it, whether to include it or not to do it. But if you see this camera in a more hybrid perspective, if you want it to be used to the photographs as well as to the video capable camera, then you have the possibility to include the flash to help those people who struggle in low light situations, or if you want to shoot against the bright lights, for example under the sun, you need the flash to compensate for the the loss of contrast or the other the shadows and the other effects that the direct sunlight has onto the lenses. Then last reason that would seriously, and I mean seriously, push me towards the XM5 would be honestly the two most film simulations, Nostalgic Neg and Realize. And Fujifilm, here you need to be careful because you played an interesting game when you decided to include the Nostalgic Neg on the XS20, because people were attracted by that film simulation, which was originally on the GFX 100S. Okay, it's sexy. I honestly can say that it's warm, it's sexy, it's vintage, it's sexy. I like it. Nostalgic Neg. And if I bought the XS10 or the XT30 Mark II or both, I would miss Nostalgic Neg and Realize. Both of them are great. Not because they're the latest and greatest, but because they have a meaningful, yeah. They have a meaning. What else can I say? The XM5 would be a great decision at last, because now Fujifilm, you need to understand that people which don't have much money to spend on a camera, which want people who want a casual camera for hobby, for vlogging, for family stuff, for something like the ordinary things, not for professionals, not the greatest YouTuber with 100 million subscribers. I only have, I think, 688 subscribers. My channel is one of the littlest. Still what little. Then I would like to have the XM5 to bring it with me with small lenses, such as the 27 2.8 WR, or the 15 to 45, or the 23 f2. These are the lenses which I'm interested in, but also the third-party lenses. For example, the 7 Artisans 35mm f1.2 Mark II. That would be a blessing on my shooting style, because Fujifilm, you need to look at the real customers, which are really going to fight for you at your side, not because of the resolution, about the 40 megapixel, but they are going to like you because of the artistic purpose. You should never betray the original idea of Fujifilm as something close to film, and so something which is meant to understand the needs of the artists, of photographers, of poets, of people who are drawing and giving birth to their ideas through the camera, to the videos and to the photos and to the slow motion. Speaking about slow motion, I think that maybe you should include the 240 FPS, maybe lowering, how can I say, degrading the resolution, for example, not the resolution, the bitrate. For example, 180p, 240 FPS at 15 Mbps, megabits per second. That would be my option, but obviously I'm not an engineer, I'm not a developer, I am just a user of the ZV-1F. I never had a Fujifilm camera in my life, so what can I know about it? I don't know. That's all. I would not like to have a longer video now, and I have to go and to make other things in Italiano, okay? So that's all from Matteo Camarda on Dark Vanities, in the name of horror, of fantasy and gothic fiction. Goodbye, my friends. Subscribe to the Dark Vanities.